Well, today's Grand Prix was a very big milestone. 1,000 Grand Prix was today's race at the Chinese Grand Prix. However, the race didn't really reflect the fact on that we were celebrating as such a big milestone. Very subtle and boring race, if you like, for what, as like I said, was a very, very special event. 1,000 Grand Prix in Formula 1. So Lewis Hamilton takes win number 75 in a very dominant display on race day. And obviously, as he has done in pretty much the other two races, the practice and qualifying sessions, it's looked like that Mercedes and Hamilton haven't been quite on the pace. And you're thinking, oh, like, is Ferrari going to get their foot in the door, or is Red Bull going to be in the mix? But then all of a sudden comes into race day, and then Hamilton's just, oh, right, I'm away, I'll see you later. And it's like, okay then. So he has got the pace. So if it happens in Baku in the next race, don't believe it. If it does look like he has got pace or he hasn't got pace in practice or qualifying, he's definitely got it. He probably will end up winning the race. So before I jump into talking about the race, let's just look at the race classifications. Obviously Hamilton, as like I said, takes win number 75 in his career. Another Mercedes 1-2 with Valtteri Bottas, his teammate, coming in second, who started in pole position. Sebastian Vettel comes home in third place. Max Verstappen had a brilliant race with the Honda power in fourth place, probably the best he could have asked for. Even though the Red Bull did say in qualifying that if it wasn't blocked by traffic at the last part of Q3, Verstappen could have been on the second row of the grid. I mean, possibly, but I'm not too sure about that one, because obviously the Ferraris did show some really good pace in qualifying. Charles Leclerc in fifth place. I'm going to talk about his race in a second when I come and talk about the race itself. Pierre Gasly in sixth, strong race. Ricciardo had a brilliant race now, eventually in seventh place. Obviously, he's had two very difficult races, so it's actually good to get to see Ricciardo showing some true pace. Racing Point, Force India came, Racing Point, Sport Pacer Racing Point. Sergio Perez came in 8th place, Kim Wright in 9th place, Alexander Albon, driver of the day in Formula 1, in 10th place. Roman Grosjean just missed out on points on 11th place. Lance Stroll, Sergio Perez's teammate, came home in 12th. Kevin Magnussen in 13th place. Carlos Sainz got damaged at the start, 14th place. Antonio Giovinazzi, 15th place. The two Williams come home in 16th and 17th place. And the three retirements were Lando Norris, who retired at the very end of the race, Daniel Kvyat, and Nico Hulkenberg. So yes, let's briefly talk about the start of the race, because that's probably where the main talking point was actually. So you had Valtteri Bottas on pole position, Hamilton just alongside him, and obviously the race gets underway. Bottas got a bit bogged down. Hamilton got the better start, and obviously got into turn one, and that was literally all she wrote, if you like. You know, Hamilton was just never really seen again. He wasn't really a threat to anyone, or Bottas wasn't really a threat to Hamilton. And it was a bit of a shame to see Bottas like so far away from Hamilton. Bear in mind that the pace was only like 0.02 of a second or 0.2 of a second or whatever in qualifying. It was quite close, but however the race didn't really reflect that when Hamilton kind of just, like I said, just dominated the Grand Prix, even though he was showing that he had no pace whatsoever. But probably the biggest talking point of the Grand Prix was the fact that of what happened between the Toro Rosso and the two McLarens. So you had Daniel Kvyat obviously going into the corner, turning, and he lost the car a bit, and you can see obviously a bit of a wiggle from the car, got a bit of a tank slapper, hit one of them. I think he hit Carlos Sainz, and then obviously put him in the path of the other McLaren, Lando Norris, who was going around the corner at the time, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Daniel Kvyat made contact with Lando Norris's right rear wheel tyre. It put the McLaren on its side a bit, came back down, and obviously damage on both cars. And obviously Daniel Kvyat sustained some damage as well. Would I put the blame on anybody? Not really. I think it was just a racing incident, in my opinion. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, the torpedoes back, or Daniel Kvyat's going to be sacked and all this malarkey. But for me, even though yes, he did hit McLaren's in my team, I don't see how Daniel Kvyat could really have been like penalised for that, even though he was, which is I thought was a bit of a shame, because not only was it the first lap, but obviously it wasn't really his fault, bearing in mind that he did lose a bit of the grip, even though that we did see, I did put this on Twitter, that we did see a lot of people losing a lot of grip, like we're seeing Bottas and Hamilton in practice, we're seeing Verstappen at the start of the race, obviously Alexander Albon in FP3, he lost a bit of grip. There was cars all over the place, it looked like they were driving a bit on ice, so I thought it was a bit of a shame that that they gave him the penalty, the drive-through penalty, but nevertheless, it happened, that was a scenario. Bit of a disappointing race for McLaren, obviously, given the scenarios. Bit of a disappointing qualifying as well. I was expecting more, if you like, from them too. But nevertheless, that was the scenario. That's what happened. Let's move on to the next race. And then nothing really happened after that. It was just a simple, boring race, if you like. But then I think probably another big talking point was obviously the two Ferraris. You had Sebastian Vettel just behind his teammate in Charles Leclerc. Vettel actually got a decent start, was actually closing up on the Mercedes driver of Valtteri Bottas. But obviously he ran a bit wide going into the first corner. Leclerc managed to overtake Vettel at the first corner, and that's how it stood for a handful of laps. But obviously you could blatantly say that Vettel was marginally quicker, to be honest, and it was no surprise when they came on the radio to Charles Leclerc and he said, "Oh, I'm going to have to let Sebastian Vettel through. You're going to have to let him past." And obviously Leclerc kind of rebelled, and he was like, "Well, no, I'm doing some decent pace. Why do I have to do that?" So obviously he gave the team orders. Obviously this week he actually listened to team orders, let Sebastian Vettel through, and obviously everyone was thinking that, all right, Seb has got some decent pace today, let's see what he can do by going forth and trying to catch the Mercedes. But that wasn't the case at all, and it really screwed Ferrari's race over. And at the time it was certainly the right decision, but I thought that given that the fact that Leclerc was starting to get a little bit faster during that period when Vettel overtook him, and then once Vettel was past him, Leclerc again was just closing up on Vettel, but obviously he couldn't really overtake him because that was the team orders. Vettel had to be in front, and it was a bit of a shame to see Leclerc's race ruined. And that's what he came on the team radio to say, "You guys, what's going on? You've ruined my race." And he literally did, because not only that, because the fact that Vettel wasn't going as quick as what everyone was thinking, he was locking up, he was going wide. It wasn't really very professional, very good driving from Vettel. Leclerc was actually being backed into Verstappen, who obviously, as I've said, finished actually ahead of the Ferrari driver because he jumped him in the pits. I mean, Verstappen showed some really good pace, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that he might get on the podium again at some point during the season. He did get on the podium in Australia. Came very close in Bahrain, but obviously that was Leclerc's expense. Safety car just missed out on that. So 2 fourth place finishes in a row for Max Verstappen in the Honda. It's good, but obviously not quite. Well, I would say not quite good enough, but I think it's probably the best they could actually ask for. A podium is probably, I would say, it was in with a shout, but obviously that's for a different video. And obviously Pierre Gasly had a very strong race. Obviously a lot of people have been on his back about his critics as well, about his drive and everything. It's like, oh, he's going to get replaced. All right, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. 6th place finish is probably the best he could ask for. He needs to do more in qualifying without a doubt. He does need to improve. But some drivers do adapt to other teams than others, faster than other drivers. And then obviously nothing really happened towards at the end of the race. Hamilton took the checker flag. He also, I think it was on lap 15 or 16, when he crossed the line to start that lap, he was the second ever driver to hit 4,000 laps, Grand Prix laps led in Formula 1 career, and obviously the driver ahead of him is only Michael Schumacher. So obviously Hamilton hit that landmark on a very landmark day, obviously 1,000 Grand Prix as well. And that was pretty much it, really. There's not really much to talk about, obviously, apart from the fact that now Lando Norris retired. So did Nico Hülkenberg. Another disappointing race from Nico Hülkenberg. Very, absolutely good to see. Bear in mind that we all thought that Hülkenberg was eventually going to get a podium this year, and to be fair, it doesn't look like he's going to get nowhere near a podium. But just before I jump into Lyle's message that he sent us to give his view of the race, I'm just going to give out my driver of the day, because I do agree with what Formula 1 and what the fans have said. Alexander Albon drove a spectacular Grand Prix. Started from the pit lane. Bear in mind that he didn't even get any running yesterday in qualifying anyway. So his last running was obviously before his crash, which was, I believe, was at, well, I would say afternoon time in China. Obviously early morning over here, but I'll probably say about early morning, maybe mid-afternoon. Early afternoon, mid-afternoon over there in China. So a very dominant display, a very good display from Alexander Albon. Did very good. It was under pressure from the Haas boys towards the end of the Grand Prix. But I think Romain Grosjean could have got him on the straight with like 2 or 3 laps to go. But obviously he did get a bit of a tour from the Williams. Alexander Albon did. And obviously he got DRS, a very powerful DRS, and managed to get about an extra 10th away from the Haas boys. So obviously absolutely splendid display from Alexander Albon. Definitely my driver of the day. Let's see what Lyle has to say. So he just started with F1 1000 in exclamation marks, like, yeah, F1 1000. Such a special event, milestone in Formula 1. Can't say the same about the race. Obviously he agrees with what I've just said. Obviously what you guys are probably thinking. It was a very boring race, to be honest with you. Not a lot happened. I think I covered all the main talking points in this review. So again, probably won't be a long video, to say the least. So he said, Bottas had an amazing qualifying to start ahead of Lewis, but the 4-time world champion managed to jump him at the start. The torpedo launched again on Lando Norris. No, I wouldn't say it was the torpedo, no, because it wasn't his fault. The torpedo came from because he literally came in like a torpedo in 2016 when it just came from, he went into a place where it was just impossible to go, and there was a forever closing gap. He just came from nowhere, and Vettel obviously dubbed him the torpedo. Then acceptable today? No, I'm not going to dig into Danny Kvyat. It wasn't his fault, to be honest with you, even though, yes, my team McLaren, he did hit them, ruin their races, but as I said, it's a race incident. I don't agree with everyone saying, oh, Dan, the torpedo's back. It's not, so just move on from that. Leclerc had a good start. Leclerc had a good start against Vettel and Spin and Max fight. Gasly, yes, spun at the start of the Grand Prix when he was going to the grid. Verstappen actually spun, and so did George Russell as well. So again, more proof that there was very, very little grip on the track. It was windy as well, so again that could have hindered Danny Kvyat's driving style, if you like. Obviously got a bit of a tank slap, as like I said, hit the two McLarens, and as their race was concerned, it was game over. Ferrari saying Charles is holding Seb up in the first part of the race, lap 11. Ferrari tell them to multi 21 into T1, and then he goes on to say, Gasly for the first time in 2019 is up with Max in the points, and some good points for Red Bull. Agreed. Red Bull are, I would say, will cement third place, because I can't see anybody giving them a real threat like they have done in the past. I mean, it is still early days, but at this present time, for me, it's Mercedes winning the constructors easily. Ferrari second, maybe putting Red Bull in the mix. That could be one. But then again, the Gasly isn't doing that well, so maybe not. But again, that's for another video. So he says, lap 16, Seb backing into Charles, who was backing into Max. Charles complaining to Ferrari. Teams aren't letting them race. Lewis leads 4K laps and counting, as like I said. Hulkenberg retires from F1K, man, Jesus Christ. Bottas pits before Hamilton in lap 22. Lewis is not happy, as Bottas has a better race plan to jump him after the pits in the race. That wasn't the case. But that would be very, very interesting to see Bottas and Hamilton actually having a good fight, and then Bottas actually putting his foot in the door to actually go on to win the race. But that wasn't the case. Lap 35, after the pit stops, Leclerc gets undercut on Verstappen, like I said, when he was getting backed up into Verstappen from Sebastian Vettel, and that's where Ferrari pretty much screwed their race. They could have got third and fourth place, but Ferrari's strategy, they need to sort it out. I mean, I was talking to someone on Twitter. I think I was talking to the F1 girl. I think we were talking, and we were basically saying that what's going on with Ferrari, why they're screwing the drivers over. It was absolutely disgrace, an embarrassing display from Ferrari today, despite getting the podium. But I mean, Ferrari just are just losing time, points after points after points ahead of the Mercedes. So obviously not very good on their behalf. Vettel pits lap 36 and an amazing 2.2 seconds, very, very quick, the quickest that'll do all weekend. Stays ahead of Verstappen. Mercedes stacked their cars in the pit very well to keep Lewis ahead. Now that for me was probably one of the best pit stops I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I have seen double stacking before, but literally you have one car here and the car behind him, his teammate, is just stationary, again losing temperature in the tyres and losing time. Bottas came in the pit, he didn't even slow down anything. Hamilton came in the pit, and by the time he left, Bottas had just literally approached his box, so he didn't slow down any more. And again, that was just perfect timing as well, and obviously to get the tyres right as well, like what Crofty said, because if they didn't, they both would have been disqualified. If Hamilton had Bottas tyres on and Bottas had Hamilton's tyres on, then they both would have been disqualified, and that would have been very, very embarrassing. Best overtake, lap 39, Bottas on Leclerc into turn 15 with DRS assistance. Leclerc pits on lap 43 for fresh mediums to battle Max. At the end, whose tyres are dying, torpedo retires. Then he goes on to say, where is he going to say? Hamilton really wants the fastest lap after Valtteri Bottas got it in Australia. Leclerc loses the podium. Leclerc loses the chance of a podium after Ferrari strategy error, like 2018, putting him 2 stops. Also calls in a gearbox problem, but it was all okay. Lando retires with just unlucky problems with the car, not helped by his turn 1 collision. Agreed. Lewis wins race 1000 with 4,000 laps over Valtteri Bottas, and yes, not 4,000 laps over them, but obviously, as I was saying, he did lead 4,000 laps in his Formula 1 career over Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel. Gasly picked up some good needed points for Red Bull. Ferrari messes up Leclerc's race. Points for Alex Albon, very, very good. Pit lane start to 10th is amazing. Gasly gets fastest laps and the extra point much needed. Yes, Pierre Gasly picked up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, which means he gets an extra point. So again, a bit more bonus for Red Bull. Something to smile about, if you like. Bear in mind that not only one driver, but both drivers scored some decent points. Driver of the day, Alexander Albon. Yes, he agreed with me. Team of the day, Mercedes. Couldn't agree more. Race rating 5.5. Ooh, I'll probably give it a 4 out of 5 if I'm honest. Now, if it wasn't for the battling Ferraris, if you like, or the little action at the start, you know, this could have been a lot lower. But I'm only giving it a 4 because it's 1,000 Grand Prix. So I'm being quite generous with that one. It could have been a lot lower because it was just a terrible Grand Prix. Which is a bit of a shame because in the last Grand Prix, at a similar sort of track, you know, it was brilliant. But for the Chinese Grand Prix, it was just poor. And I hope this is going to be the case in Azerbaijan because the last 2 races have been absolutely brilliant. 2016 was boring, but 17 and 18 was incredible. So I'm hoping that we're going to get out of this phase of where one race is going to be good, the next race is going to be bad, one race is going to be good. But obviously we are going to a very, again, another power hungry circuit. So can Mercedes, you know, extend their lead again over the Ferrari, or can Ferraris claw something back from what could have been a much better result, maybe even a second place, maybe even a race win? Who knows? Kimi Raikkonen and Pierre Gasly also in contention with driver of the day, and then he goes on to say Chi China. Okay. Yes, Kimi Raikkonen did have a solid Grand Prix as well, battling. I think he had a good battle with Pierre Gasly. I thought Pierre Gasly handled that very, very well. Obviously got did him a little dummy as well. Looked like he was going to go the inside. When they're going in the corner, he cut back right, and obviously overtakes the Alfa Romeo driver, no problem. Pierre Gasly again for scoring them points today. Overall, so yes, obviously let us know your opinions in the comment section below. What's your opinions of the Grand Prix? I know there isn't that much to talk about, however, obviously let us know your driver of the day. Let us know what you thought of the race, your main points. Was Daniel Kvyat at fault? You know, is the torpedo really back? Obviously only time will tell. Let's see if he can improve at the next Grand Prix. So obviously that's where I'm wrapping this review. Thank you very much for watching as well. If you are new around here, please like and subscribe as well. And until the next Grand Prix, the next race review, we shall see you later.